Alright, where should I even begin? After everyone settled down inside the room, I paused to collect my thoughts. I've actually taken quite a number of steps without Yumiko's knowledge, and in some cases, matters are tangled enough that explaining systematically might prove challenging.
では、私から質問していいかしら。
Makes sense. Clearing up your questions should make things nice and comprehensible.
じゃあまず、この場所について、どうしてまだ学園が残っているの？そして、みんなはどうしてここにいるの？
From the question, I'm assuming you thought the school was going to be shut down. Yumiko nods.
だって嫌な言い方だけれど、ここはもともと私一人のためにあの人が作った場所だから。
That's fair. When you disappeared, so did the meaning for its existence. That your line of thought?
ええ。だから戻ってきてすぐにそれが気になったのよ。卒業しているはずのスオさんまでいるし、どういうことなのかって。
The super senior in question responds with a bright, casual smile.
まあ、榊さんとユージがいなくなった後、そういう話も出たんだけどね。
Sachi nods and follows up Amani's interruption with a comment of her own.
ミニベロを見せられて凶暴してたんじゃないかって言われたりもしました。
Sorry, Sachi. I really am sorry about that. Must have been a real headache.
まったくよ、私がどれだけ苦労したと思ってるのよ。チルチルなんもしてへんやんけ。思いつきでとりあえず首突っ込むのはやめた方がいいわよ。それはね、私だって。
I'm going to get back on topic now. The suspicion that they helped arrange her escape was cleared up eventually. Soon afterward, the principal informed everyone the school would be closing its doors.
でも、そうなっちゃうとユージたちが帰ってくる場所がなくなっちゃうから、なんとかして私たちで残せないか、学園長を通じてうまい具合に説得してもらったのよ。
一体どういうふうに？
ここが残っている限り、そして私たちがここに住んでいる限り、風見さんたちが戻ってくる可能性がありますよと話をしてもらったんです。さも罠を仕掛けるかのように地図に一芝居打ってもらったのよさ。
Okay, that's fair.
狙いは成功。学園も寮もひとまずは存続が決まった。まあしばらくの間は周辺を妙なのがうろうろしていたけど、それも時間が経つにつれて減ってきたしね。
松島さんが見回りをしていたのもそのためだったのね。
そう大事な任務だからね。あははは。今日当番なの忘れてたくせによう言うわ。
みちる様、幸はいつもおそばにいますからね。
寝坊ぐらい多めに見てよ。あとサチ、かわいそうな子扱いすんなよ。
Anyway, I think that basically covers your first question. Make sense?
ええ。ではもう一つ。これが本題だけど、どうやってこれからあの人に立ち向かうの？ここに戻ってきたからには何か考えがあってのことなのよね。
Yeah, of course. Instead of continuing, I turn to Sachi and nod. Sachi indicates her understanding with a moment of eye contact, then opens the notebook PC she's been holding and turns it to face us. A spreadsheet program appears on the screen, with a list of names in the first column and thick blocks of detailed information stretching out to the side.
これは？
Yumiko looks it over for a moment, then glances at me with a confused expression on her face. Before explaining that, let me ask you a question, Yumiko. Why has your father, Sakaki Michiaki, been pursuing you so doggedly in the first place?
どうしてって、それはあの人の会社の跡継ぎに血縁のある私を添えて道具としていいように利用するため。
Yes, but not out in the open.
娘だからどうこうというより先にそれが立っていると思うわ。
True? I nod deeply. That's right. Sakaki Michiaki leads the East Beach group, and he wants to make you into his puppet. Those are the two facts that caused the situation.
その通りよ。でも、どうして今更そんなことを改めて言うの？
You don't see where I'm going here? We're going to destroy East Beach Group?
まさかあの人をトップの座から退けるということ？
はい、正解です、榊さん。
Yumiko shakes her head back and forth in disbelief.
無茶よそんなの。社長を交代させるには取締役会の承認が必要だわ。そんなにうまくいくはずが。
こちらをご覧いただけますか？
Yeah, this is probably where that thing where we were, where we had the dirt on Yumiko's dad's group working with the other group, right? Once again, Sachi gestures towards the screen of her notebook computer.
東浜グループは東浜ホールディングスという持ち株会社が全ての株式を保有しています。そしてその持ち株会社の株式の保有比率は
With a click on the trackpad, she flips through the dense spreadsheet to an easily comprehensible pie graph.
公共の交通機関を所有している関係から国土交通省が約3割、他はおおよそ 10% 程度の保有率で電力、銀行、保険、建設の各社が保有しています。肝心の榊道明氏の個人所有分は数%というところですね。
ねえ、マキナ、サチってさっきから一体何言ってんの？ねえ。
Damn, you're useless, Michiru.
いいからそこに置いてある魚味噌でも食っとけ。
保有比率の件は分かったわ。でもそれがさっきの話にどうつながるの？
風見さんから依頼を受けて私たちはその切り崩し工作を行ったんです。
切り崩し？株式の所有企業をってこと？
いやー、榊さんを前にして言うのもなんだけどさ、お父さん結構恨み買ってる部分もあったみたいでね。ガチガチかと思ったけど意外とうまくいったのよさ。
はい、少々危ない橋も渡りましたが、風見さんの指令通り相手方をこちらにつけるための情報を確実に集めてまいりました。
なんかよくわかんないけど、本当にあんたを敵に回したくはないわね、私は。
Well, I can't disagree with Michiru on that one.
と言ってもせいぜい私にできるのは潜入工作レベルのことで、巨大な企業相手にあれこれといった大掛かりなことまでは不可能です。
そうよね。だとしたら一体。
As Yumiko's face fills with questions, I lightly drop a hand onto the crown of her head. And that's why JB and I arrange a few things behind the scenes.
ユージと原寺さんは一体どのぐらい前から？
Since right after our initial escape,
そんな前からだったの
1 year ago, Yumiko and I chose to flee together. At the time, I said we were going to look for an answer, not just run away. And just as those words might suggest, I began a quiet search from the shadows, seeking a way for Yumiko to earn genuine freedom.
というわけで、現在の反主流派にはこのようなメンツがいるわけです。
I see. With a little prodding, we really might stand a chance. To eliminate the problem posed by Sakaki Michiaki, we need only deprive him of power. It didn't take long for me to reach that simplistic conclusion. But as a fugitive with only a few students for allies, there didn't seem to be a practical way of making it happen. That changed, surprisingly enough, with a furtive proposal from JB. Sakaki Michiaki had meddled directly in Ichigaya's internal affairs in this matter, inspiring widespread resentment. Certain higher-ups had directly authorized an attempt to arrange his dismissal. However, JB was in frequent contact with Sakaki Michiaki as our liaison. Liaison? I hope I'm saying that correctly. I know what it means, but I don't know how to pronounce it. It was too dangerous for her to take any direct action. I was assigned her direct subordinate, a woman named Kiara, to assist in planning the coup.
現在はまだ過半数に達していません。今後は敵に気づかれないように協力してくれる勢力を増やしていくことが必要となります。
Right. I've already explained matters to the others at the dorm. Go ahead and get in contact with them as well.
わかりました。
To our extreme good fortune, there was already what JB called a hostile internal power operating inside the East Beach ownership, and it didn't prove difficult to make them into our allies. In any case, we carried our complex preparations forward carefully but steadily, aiming to arrange a day of reckoning. Not that I mentioned any of that to Yumiko at the time. Not too long ago, we finally managed to secure a majority for the opposition faction. I take out my cell phone and hold it up for Yumiko to see. You know how we hid out for a few days before coming here?
あれもこのことに関係していたの？
Just stalling for time while our allies called an extraordinary general meeting. Agenda is pretty simple. A resolution for a certain board member's dismissal.
解任動議？
That's right. We're going to have Sakaki Michiaki removed from the board of directors.
取締役を罷免。つまりそれが成立すれば代表でもなくなるということ？
Exactly. You can't be the representative director of a stock company, its president, if you're not even a director. I snap open my cell phone and type out a series of digits. It's the same number Yumiko called from a public telephone about a week ago, on the verge of giving up hope. The same call that nearly meant our defeat, but this time, it's a declaration of war.
こんな時間に誰だね。非常識な。
In response to Michiaki's surly greeting, I firmly and clearly announce myself. This is Kazami Yuji. From the other end of the line, the man audibly catches his breath.
なんだと。
All of a sudden, Michiaki shifts into an entirely different gear. There's obvious tension in his voice.
本物か。お前、今どこにいる。答えろ。
I'm inside the prison you built.
牢獄だと。
After considering this for the briefest of moments, Michiaki responds with a shout.
美浜学園か。今さらのうのうと戻ってきたというのか。
Oh, you're good at guessing games. But then again, I suppose that one wasn't too much of a leap for you, was it?
黙れ。そこにユミコもいるんだな。
That's right. She's standing right next to me. If you want her back, come to the Mihama Academy dorm at 10 tomorrow morning. We'll talk then.
明日だと。お前、明日がどういう日か分かって言っているのか。
I don't see any reason I should answer that question. But in general, President Sakaki, I'd encourage you to tread carefully. I abruptly end the call, not bothering to answer Michiaki's question. Yumiko is still staring at me in slack-jawed astonishment. I turn to face her and deliver a reassuring little thump on the shoulder. There. We've got our actors and our stage. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the curtain to rise.
おい、答えろ。おい、おい。私だ。今から社へ向かうぞ。ああ、そうだ。ユミコの件で動きがあった。それと、市ヶ谷へ緊急連絡を回せ。すぐにだ。そうだ。ハルデラだ。あのスパイ女を陸将補経由で連れてこい。明日の総会、そこに絡んでくる可能性も出てきた。逃げられる前に急げ。わかったな。
After completing our thorough explanation for Yumiko, we begin a final review of our plans for tomorrow. Yumiko and I will handle the actual discussion with her father. Everyone else, focus on gathering information.
了解。
Sachi, I'd like you with us as a point of contact in case something we need to know about happens. Michiru, can you keep patrol the area starting early tomorrow morning and keep an eye out for any suspicious movements?
はい、わかりました。オッケー。
Alright. We'll gather in the lobby at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Same goes if there's any sign of movement before then. Let's finish the job, everyone. Dismissed. With that, everyone except Yumiko nods and gets to their feet. Since we've been preparing for this well in advance, there aren't any questions or objections now. All that's left is to assume our roles and see how it all plays out tomorrow.
あの
Yumiko calls out to stop us, and the others turn back to face her.
私急な話です。 まだ理解できてない部分も多いけど、みんなが今回のことで私のために動いてくれたってことはよく分かったわ。本当にごめんなさい。
Just as the words start to leave Yumiko's mouth, Amane raises a hand to interrupt.
そこは謝るんじゃないでしょ。
そんな答えじゃお兄ちゃんに怒られるのよさ。はい、謝られるようなことはしていませんよ、私たちは。そうそう、謝るぐらいなら後でお礼言ってもらった方がいいわよ。
Yumiko looks at everyone's face in turn, her expression still shadowed with guilt.
まあまだお礼を言われるにも早いんだけどね。ひとまずこの一件が終わったらみんなでゆっくり話しましょう。
そうさ。
みんな榊さんと仲良くなる前に離れ離れになっちゃったから、これからね。
Even after our classmates leave, a conflicted expression lingers on Yumiko's face. I can see a complex mixture of gratitude, guilt, and anxiety in her eyes. On the whole, it would be fair to say the girl is still somewhat unsettled at the moment. It's hard to blame her after how rapidly events have developed in the last few hours. But even so, tomorrow she's going to have to confront the thing that's been holding her back all this time.
Yuji, もう寝ちゃった？
Yeah. Having trouble sleeping? I decided to have Yumiko sleep in my room tonight, for security reasons if nothing else. It's been a while since we turned off the lights and got in bed, but there's no hint of drowsiness in her voice.
ユージは本当に勝てると思ってる？
Her uneasy words echo inside the dark, quiet room. If I didn't, I never would have asked you that question in the first place.
本当に？
Yeah. Compared to risking everything on a thoughtless bet, running away and keeping our heads down would have been the clear choice. Much less risk involved. I hear clothes rustling softly on Yumiko's side of the bed. We've been lying down with our backs turned to each other, but it sounds as though she's turned to face me.
そうよね。ごめんなさい。あなたはいつも考えているものね。
She pauses for a moment, then sighs softly.
あなただけじゃない。寮のみんなにしても、私のためにずっと長い間頑張ってくれて。それに対して私は何一つとして役に立てていない。こうしてお膳立てしてもらっても、未だに不安でいっぱいで、逃げ出したくなってしまう。
Yumiko, don't you remember what I told you at the very beginning? I thought I was pretty clear about this when I coaxed you out of that airplane. Nobody needs your guilt or apologies. Try gratitude. All you have to think about right now is breaking away from your father in the Sakaki house. Once you get your freedom, show your appreciation to the people who helped you. That's all the repayment we need.
できるのかしら、私に。
Of course you will. You've made your own decisions for the last year, Yumiko. You've grown. Have a little confidence in yourself.
そうよね。スオさんにも言われたしね。せめてちゃんと返せるように。
My words seem to have at least some effect, as Yumiko mumbles vaguely encouraging words to herself. There's another rustling sound from the other side of the bed. She seems to have turned away from me once more. It's not like I'm absolutely confident about our chances myself, and I'm sure as hell not qualified to be pompously preaching at Yumiko like this. The words I spoke just now were directed to myself as much as her. An attempt to persuade a coward to stand and fight for once in his life.
ユージ、お願いがある。
Before too long, Yumiko speaks to me again. Sure, go ahead.
もう泣き言を言ったりはしない。みんなのためにも、ユージのためにも、自分のためにもあの人に立ち向かう。だから。
She hesitates for a moment, then continues slowly.
最後とは思いたくない。 もう明日しかないから抱いてほしい。もう一度だけ確かめたいの。あなたがユウシがかけがえのない大切な存在だって体で確かめたいのよ。
Are we actually gonna have sex again? Oh my god. I thought there was only like 2 sex scenes. Your sex scenes have been like 40 minutes each, Yumiko. Damn. This time, I'm the one who flips over in bed. Yumiko's trembling slightly, even from behind. It's obvious that she's forcing herself to be brave. First, I gently place a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Understood. Just promise me one thing first.
何かしら。
Promise me you won't think of this as the last time. We're going to be together for the rest of our lives, alright? That's a promise. Don't even let yourself think otherwise. Yumiko's back shivers again, just a little. She sniffles once before responding. Think I'll pretend not to notice the hint of suppressed tears in her voice.
ユウシ、
Letting the tension drain from her body, Yumiko opens herself to me.
激しくしてほしい。私を飲み込むぐらいに。
Works for me! With a nod, I slip my arms around her. Yeah, that was another 40-minute sex scene. Yumiko might have actually the longest sex scenes out of everyone. Surprisingly, because all her sex scenes are 40 minutes long. Gotta say though, Yumiko's sex scenes are probably the most romantic and overall just the most normal out of everyone, I feel. It's definitely pretty damn organic compared to, you know, like say Amane's or Michiru's. I think the only sex scene I dislike was actually Michiru's sex scene and like a lot of the forceful ones from Amane. I think I mostly like Makina's, Sachi's, and also Yumiko's sex scenes for the most part. They're really nice. Even after we've thoroughly confirmed our mutual feelings, Yumiko and I continue talking for a long time. Making love seems to have eased the girl's earlier uncertainty somewhat. Her voice has regained something of its usual calm.
あの人のことを考えていたわ。
Sakaki Michiaki? Yumiko nods slightly against her pillow.
私はあの人のことを恨んでいる。憎み続けている。だけど怖いぐらいにあの人のことを何も知らないのよ。
From what Yumiko says, the man known as Sakaki Michiaki doesn't enjoy discussing his past in any detail. Any reader of economic magazines or websites can find an outline of his impressive academic background and professional accomplishments, but there's virtually nothing to be found on the more personal aspects of his life. Even the sexual scandals Yumiko described have been largely scrubbed from the narrative, for so little to be known about such a public figure suggests a concentrated effort to scare off or manipulate the media. All I found is a loose sketch of the man's personality, repeated again and again. For the sake of expanding his corporate empire, Sakaki Michiaki will do absolutely anything. Wonder if something happened when he was younger. Human beings are shaped by their childhood experiences more than anything else. Even Yumiko doesn't know much about that part of her father's life. But there must have been something that made him into the ruthless obsessive he is today.
ユウシを信じてる。でもあの人は今でもやっぱり怖い。
Yumiko seems to shrink a little as she draws close to me.
大丈夫よね、ユウシ。
Of course, rest assured. Embracing Yumiko with one arm, I run my hand through her hair, then stroke her cheek. And a few minutes after her trembling finally dies down, a peaceful drowsiness settles over us both.
来たかね。
ええ、もう来る気はありませんでしたが、緊急にとのことでしたので。
風見裕二から連絡があった。
はい、その旨報告は受けております。
あの軍 人上がり、生意気にも私を挑発してきた。由美子を返してほしければ、明日あの辺境の町へ来いとのことだ。
私どもの部下のやったこと、重ね重ねお詫びいたします。至急現地に赴きまして説得を。
そんな猿芝居はもういいんだよ、パルデラさん。
私はこの一件に関与していないと何度も申し上げ、証拠も提出したはずですが。
あくまで白を切り通すか。まあいい。ひとまず明日が終わるまではおとなしくしてもらうぞ。おい、やれ。はい。
社長、どういうおつもりですか。これは私どもに対する不当な行為であり、拘束など。
無論あなたの上司の許可は得ている。表向きは泊まりがけのご招待だ。後で何を言おうが遠慮なくもみ消す。あなた方が何を企んでいるのかは知らんが、こんなくだらない騒動で榊家の野望を費えさせるわけにはいかん。あの軍人上がりは即刻排除し、由美子は返してもらう。
何のことをおっしゃっているのか分かりかねます。
軍人はどこまでも任務に忠実だな。その心があなたの部下にもあればよかったのだが、何か連中と連絡を取るかもしれん。電波の届かない地下にでも閉じ込めておけ。はい。生きて帰れるだけマシだと思え。あの人ならば間違いなく存在ごと消していただろうからな。
By the time the morning light against my eyelids wakes me, Yumiko's already gotten out of bed and dressed herself. Noticing me stir, she turns back to face the bed.
ユージ、おはよう。
Her voice is clear and dignified. There's no hint at the weakness or fear from last night. It sounds as though she stilled herself for what's coming. Yeah, morning. I roll out of bed and quickly begin my own preparations. A little while later, everyone's gathered in the lobby just as we arranged yesterday evening. There's 1 hour before our appointment with Michiaki. Time we'll use to make a few final preparations.
そろそろ時間ね。マキナ、裏口はしっかり固めた？
サッチンと一緒に厳重に固めたのよさ。もし侵入者があってもすぐにわかるようにはしてあります。
Well, this isn't going to be a siege battle, but it never hurts to cover all your bases. Stay on your toes. How's it going on your end, Sachi? Sachi responds without taking her eyes off the screen of her laptop.
大丈夫です。予定通り臨時株主総会は開催されるようです。
At a glance, there's nothing odd visible from the video feed of the conference room she's monitoring. Okay, now we just wait for the villain to make his entrance. Forming my right hand into a fist, I lightly smack it into my left palm. And almost as if someone's taken their cue, the sound of running footsteps approaches from outside the dorm.
来たわよ！なんかすごい大勢で来てる！
Returned from her patrol, Michiru bursts into the lobby in a state of obvious consternation.
じゃあ行ってくるわ。
I have no idea what the hell is a consternation. Yumiko, who had been sitting on the sofa in silence throughout our meeting, rises gallantly to her feet. As the others watch with concern in their eyes, she slowly opens the door and heads outside. I follow quietly in her wake. An extraordinary spectacle greets us. Specifically, it's an absolute swarm of jet black cars, reminiscent of that parent-teacher conference visit, but on a far greater scale. I count more than 10 vehicles at a glance. Hard-faced men in black suits who could easily pass for gangsters from a solid row in front of their cars form. The dorm's entirely surrounded. The unbroken ring of vehicles and men stretches around the building at a distance of maybe 10 meters. Clearly not interested in letting us get away this time. Probably only natural given his long pursuit and the insult I delivered last night. But above all else, I think this display of force is the product of Sakaki Michiaki's sheer stubborn tenacity. The rear door of the car stopped directly in front of us swings open, and with extremely deliberate movements, a single man emerges. A slender, graying man, dressed in a conservative charcoal suit. His glare is sharp as a knife and significantly less friendly. Yumiko's father, Sakaki Michiaki,
まさか予告通りバカ正直にここにいるとはな。
The first words out of his mouth are a toneless expression of surprise. As he looks over his daughter, the corners of Michiaki's mouth jerk up slightly into something resembling a smirk.
久しぶりだな。少し痩せたんじゃないのか。
ええ。突然襲われたり、海外に連れ去られそうになったり、必要に追われたりしたから。きっとそのせいだわ。
はっ。誰のためを思ってやったことなのか分かろうともせずに。まあいい。
Michiaki's scornful expression gives way with disconcerting smoothness to a gentle smile.
なあユミコ、今ならばまだ許してやる。最後の慈悲だ。お前が私のもとへ戻ってくれば、その男は許してやろうじゃないか。泣いて許しを請え。お父さんごめんなさいと謝罪しろ。そうすれば全て丸く収まるんだ。さあ早く。
嘘よ。
父親を信じられないのか。
父親だなんて。あなたを父と思ったことなんて、あの裏切られた日以来一度だってなかったわよ。
Yumiko's voice quavers with rage. Her teeth grinding audibly, she squeezes spiteful words out of her throat and fires them at Michiaki like arrows.
今日こうしてあなたの前に立ったのは娘として戻るわけでも泣いて許しを請うわけでもないわ。
おお、何のためだと言うんだ。
A gust of wind blows across the yard, kicking up a swirling cloud of sand. For just a moment, it hides Michiaki from view, and when he appears again, Yumiko's tightly pursed lips open.
あなたと決別するためよ。
Michiaki doesn't even flinch, but Yumiko presses on regardless, her eyes slightly downcast, letting the anger she's kept inside flow freely out of her.
ずっと孤独だった。あなたから捨てられ、何もない時間を過ごし、一方的に呼び戻されて、裏切られた。私にとっては、家族なんて存在しないも同然だった。一方的に放り込まれたこの学園でも、私は囚人同然の生活を押し付けられた。誰とも話さず、何も考えられず、ずっと一人きりだった。
Yumiko turns back. Her gaze lingers on me and Sachi, then turns to the dorm where our other classmates are waiting. I've never seen such a peaceful smile on her face before.
ここには同じような傷を負った子たちがいたわ。すぐには無理だったけど、少しずつゆっくりと話していくことができた。そしてユージが来た。ユージもまたいろんなことを私に教えてくれた。私を人間にしてくれた。
With a flutter of her hair, she spins back to face Michiaki once more.
なのに、あなたはそれすらもまた奪おうとした。私には空想なものばかりを与え、心の通ったものは何一つとして与えようとも、持つことも許さなかった。でも、もう私は言いなりにはならない。自分の口で喋って、自分の手足で動いて、あなたの人形になんかなり下がらない。あなたはたくさんのものを壊して潰してきたわ。お母さんだって裏切ってボロボロにした。
Yumiko's eyes open wide in a furious glare. Her teeth snap together even more loudly than before.
あなたみたいに感情のない機械なんかに父親だなんて言われたくなんかないのよ。
生意気な口を叩くな。
A harsh bellow cuts through the air, For a moment, Yumiko flinches back.
お前のような子供に何がわかる。
Michiaki takes a firm step toward us. He speaks in a voice so low it seems to rise up from the ground underneath his leather shoes.
父から受け継いだ大頭皮を小娘のわがままで潰すわけにはいかんのだ。ゴミのような周りの企業を掌握し、傀儡を増やし、いつかは国をも買う。それこそが父の夢であり、父と同じである私の夢だ。父は私を人形にした。自らがその人形の中に入り、動き、大盗品を揺るぎなきものにした。私はそれを継ぎ、お前を新しい人形にして、器をさらに大きくするのだ。
The thing standing in front of Yumiko right now isn't a human being. It's the incarnation of an ambition handed down through the decades. A company in the shape of a man, trying to swallow her into itself.
その大いなる前提の前に、個々の意志などゴミに等しい。そんなものを大切だと説かれたところで、何の考えもない。
I mean, it's not like I can't see from his point of view. I actually could understand.
人間じゃないわ。あなた。
Oh, sorry.
また小娘の分際で人間がどうだのと語るのか。もうたくさんだ。お前の母親もきっとそんな甘いことばかり言っていたから勝手に潰れていったのだろう。
お母さんのことをそんな風に言わないで。元はといえばあなたが原因を作ったんじゃないの。
会社の発展のためにあの程度のことすら許容することもできなかった強量な女だ。私が責任を感じることなど何もないだろう。
全部やはり嘘だったのね。私に言ってきた言葉も態度も何もかもが。
さあ、時間の無駄だ。実力行使に出てもいいが、荒っぽいことはしたくない。おとなしく車に乗るんだ。
As Michiaki extends his hand, Yumiko draws back a step in refusal. The next words out of her mouth are delivered in a voice as cold as ice.
あなたはもう終わりよ。
なんだと。
わからないの。なぜ勇士があなたを今日ここに呼んだのか。なぜ今日でなくてはいけなかったのか。
Michiaki's eyebrows twitch ever so slightly. A moment later, with an expression caught halfway between an angry scowl and an amused smile, he answers.
今日。そうか。やはりお前たちがやったのか。
そうよ。東浜ホールディングスの臨時株主総会。社長の解任動議が今日可決されれば、あなたは社長の座を失う。私を傀儡にして達成するはずの野望も、ここで完全についえることになるわ。
Michiaki listens to his daughter's words expressionlessly. There's no anger, no surprise, no scorn or fear. His face is simply blank, and somehow, that indifference is more intimidating than any emotion could have been. Finally, a dry rattling chuckle emerges from his throat.
何がおかしいの？
いいぞ、いいぞ、ユミコ。そうして社会のお勉強をするのか。これからの仕事に役立つな。いや、まさか自ら勉強してくれるとはな。
Clapping his hands together with easy confidence, Michiaki responds as if genuinely pleased by the situation. There isn't the slightest hint of anxiety in his cold, amused eyes.
まだそんな強がりを言うつもりなの？現実を見てからそんなふざけたことを。
強がり？そういうのはきちんと情勢を確認してから言うんだな。お前の方こそ現実を見た方がいいんじゃないのか。
Yumiko turns around once more. Sachi is just lowering a cell phone from her ear, her face a ghastly shade of white.
あまねさんから今連絡が入りました。
The normally unflappable girl's voice shakes with disbelief.
賛成の動議に誰も立ち上がらないそうです。
嘘でしょ？賛成するって言ってたはずなのに。
I mean, if it's just word of promise, there's no papers to back it up, Amane. I kinda knew this would happen.
口裏を合わせたかのように静まり返っているのよさ。これってダメなんでしょ？解任に賛成させなきゃいけないんでしょ？今すぐ連絡とかできないの？あまね。
ダメよ。私らが直接この人たちに言ったわけじゃないもの。すごく面倒なルートを通しての約束だから、話をするにしてもまたそのルートを通さないといけないわ。
じゃあこのまま黙って見ていろって言うの？どうしようもないのよさ。そんな。
お前たちがあの市ヶ谷の女あたりと企んで反対派を動かしていたことぐらいは知っていたよ。まあ子供の革命ごっこがどこまで通じるのか興味半分で見ていたが、思った以上に勉強していたようで驚いたよ。構成してきちんとした学校を出れば使ってやらんこともないぞ。
As Yumiko bites down on her lip in frustration, Michiaki takes another step forward, his stride even larger and bolder than before.
さあ、今度こそ本当に終わりだ。私の人形になる覚悟を決めろ、ユミコ。
いや。
覚悟を決めるのなら、そうだな。そこにいる軍人上がりのガキも性欲処理用として飼うのを許してやらんでもないぞ。まあその代わりに人間としての尊厳は極限までそぎ落とすがな。
そんなの許せるわけが。
Yumiko is still mounting her best attempt at resistance, but the momentum has shifted entirely in favor of her father. His face placid and composed, Michiaki takes another step forward. And this time, his cruel eyes flick over in my direction.
おい、軍人上がり。そこに突っ立ってないで、お前も何か言ったらどうなんだ。
His tone of voice is light, teasing.
女にばかり前に立たせて喋らせるとは情けないにも程があるだろう。
In strong contrast to her father's composure, Yumiko's voice twists with sorrow and fear. Without particularly reacting to either of them, I cock my head to the side and furrow my brow. That's funny. Do I hear a phone? Michiaki grimaces sourly in evident disappointment.
なんだと？別に構わん。出るがいい。どうせすぐに電話など取り上げ。
Wrong. It sounds like a phone's ringing, but it's not mine. Somebody else must be getting a call.
何を一体言っているんだ？
The man clearly seems to think this somewhat less than important right now. For the first time, I meet his gaze with a powerful glare of my own. You still don't understand. It's your phone, with a very important call.
私のだと。
Dubiously, Michiaki reaches up for the pocket of his suit. The instant his hand touches the softly buzzing cell phone, his bemused expression changes to one of pure surprise.
なぜ貴様に分かった？
Not important. You should probably answer right away. Take a look at who's calling.
なんだと？こんな時にどこの誰が？
Muttering complaints to himself, Michiaki glances down at the screen. His face stiffens instantly.
村松国土交通大臣からだと。
He hurriedly presses the answer button, his attention now focused solely on the phone. The rest of us no longer seem to even register.
もしもし、村松大臣ですか？榊です。榊でございます。やっと出てくれましたか、榊さん。あ、申し訳ございません。ちょうど今お話ししておりました総会の最中でして。その総会のことで連絡があってね。手短に言うよ。はあ。事情が変わってね。
君を支援することはできなくなった。すまないが、潔く社長の座を降りてくれたまえ。まあ、心配しなくとも相応の名誉職ぐらいは用意しておくから、それで納得するんだな。
そんな、どういうことですか、大臣。
あんたも面倒な部分に触れたもんだ。同情するよ。
大臣、待ってください。どういうことですか、大臣。
あまねさん。はい。解任賛成が。はい、わかりました。伝えます。風見さん、今あまねさんから連絡があって、社長の解任動議が可決されたと。
So much corruption, man, in every country. All it takes is just one call from someone.
様子見だった企業も次々と解任賛成に回り、最終的に8割の票を集めたそうです。
I nod casually to acknowledge Sachi's report. Thought as much. Just how JB told me it would play out. Entirely on the other end of the emotional spectrum, Sakaki Michiaki stands before me in stunned, furious disbelief. It's hard to believe he's the same man who was so full of confidence before that phone rang. Squeezing his cell phone with a quivering hand, he glares at me with an expression full of undisguised wrath.
お前ら、なぜだ。どうして、そんな。
Reminds me of Yumiko's reaction when I brought her here yesterday. The man simply can't process the situation he's found himself in. I'll explain. Stepping out protectively in front of Yumiko, I approach her trembling father. It's just as you said. No matter how much a group of children struggle, it's fundamentally ridiculous to imagine they could stage a large-scale corporate conflict. Convincing the opposition to move would have been nearly impossible unless people holding genuine power were leading the charge. However, there was one lever which could undoubtedly move even those deeply cautious men. An organization possessing tremendous influence, and the largest stockholder in the East Beach Group. Once JB obtained a route to them through a certain connection of hers, our victory was all but assured. They were the focus of our attention from the very start. But as I'm sure you know, it never hurts to be doubly cautious in this sort of thing. That's why we attacked the problem from so many angles over the last year. After all, we were up against Sakaki Michiaki. If we spend all our time messing with the Ministry of Infrastructure, I expected you'd catch on and devise a counter-strategy. JB's connection had overwhelming influence over the ministry, but Michiaki might still have managed to turn the tables on us if our movements were exposed in the early stages. We needed to set the wheels in motion without tipping him off to our real plans until the very last moment. That was the primary objective of all our other movements. Therefore, we started building ourselves a pseudo-majority, knowing full well it would fall apart in the end. We let you see a bunch of children sniffing around, give you a nice easy target to undermine.
反対派と妙な動きをしていたのはフェイクだったということか。
Exactly.
そんな。
Is he gonna say the word? Ah, he's not gonna say the word. He didn't say bakana. Michiaki's cell phone clatters to the ground. His head slumps over his sagging shoulders. The arrogance from a few minutes ago has vanished without the slightest trace.
終わりか。こんなにあっけなく。しかもこんなガキどもに。人生を賭して、すべてを捨てて。それが。
Muttering reproachful words to no one in particular, he drags himself back to his car and climbs slowly inside. The black-suited men surrounding the area, perhaps sensing their employer's defeat, hurriedly begin to withdraw. With the roar of a dozen engines, clouds of dust from many tires fill the air, as if to mark the conclusion of our battle. Amane bursts out of the door moments later. Makina and Michiru follow in her wake, their faces overflowing with joy. Yeah, sorry for startling you.
もうびっくりしたわよ。最初からそういう仕込みだったなら言っておいてくれればよかったのに。
はい、 私も連絡を受けた時は寿命が縮む思いでした。
あんたが言うぐらいだから相当なもんよね、サチ。ともかくこれで晴れて榊さんは自由の身なのよね、ユージ。
Yeah, sorry about the drama, Yumi. Just like the others, Yumiko's face is filled with relief at her come from behind victory. Or so I'd imagine, but when I turn around, I find something else entirely. Yumiko? Yumiko's turned her head in a different direction from the rest of us. No less still and quiet than before, she's gazing far off into the distance. Think you guys can head back inside before us? I turn to our friends, who nod quickly and return to the dorm. After watching them all enter the building, I fix my eyes on Yumiko once more. Her face is fixed in the direction that group of cars disappeared. The eyes of Sakaki Michiaki's only daughter are quietly gazing after the man who stayed her bitter enemy until the very end. Yumiko. I call out her name once more, but Yumiko doesn't move, and her expression doesn't change. She's not crying. It doesn't look like she's grieving. Her face is simply lonely. The clouds of dust that had been dancing through the air eventually fade away as the wind carries them out to sea. The familiar campus has returned to a familiar state, and still, Yumiko stands rooted to the spot. As I watch her from behind, I hear the cry of a kite overhead like a shrill note on a flute. The small black bird of prey glides serenely past us, making its way to the ocean, just like one I saw on the rooftop of this dorm once. It's a painfully normal summer scene, almost as if someone's trying to remind us how small our struggles are, how insignificant our hatreds. I think we skipped about a month and a half. No matter how much power you hold, no matter how wise and widely respected you may be, there's one force you're completely powerless to resist. No one in the world's capable of stopping the flow of time. True, spend enough money and you can usually prolong your life a little, but that's hardly the same as stopping or reversing the relentless march of the years. Back in the old days, there were rulers who thought systems of hereditary inheritance could grant them dominion over time. But open any history book and you'll find plenty of proof that was just another way of struggling in vain against the inevitable. Strict codes of law, beautiful writings, wise teachings, all these too eventually fade away. Still, there are always people who struggle against that oppressive rule, studying the failures of those who went before and seek immortality through lines or deeds. And there are those who live ephemerally in the moment, ignoring the current of time entirely. Perhaps that's a valid means of escape in its own right. But no matter what approach we take, we're all fighting a losing battle. Some few among the most determined and brilliant may manage to build a milestone, but compared to the vast and unending road itself, such monuments aren't particularly significant. Time's an absolute tyrant. Everyone's powerless to resist its might. However, if you look at the matter from another angle, time's also our supreme problem solver, the ultimate healer of wounds. Given enough time, a Gordian knot too tangled for human hands to undo will naturally slip apart and return to its original form. I don't know what's a Gordian knot, but okay. Through the passing of years, a hardened clump of stone that won't dissolve under water or melt in fire will disintegrate all on its own. Time doesn't rule through fear alone. Like all that's truly absolute, it exerts its power indifferently over good and bad alike. Running my usual morning course, I breathe in and out at my usual steady rhythm. There's no hesitation in my movements. I could run this route in my sleep by now. I'm not bothering to measure or anything, but my heartbeat and calorie burn are probably exactly the same as they were yesterday. From a long-term perspective, it'll probably only be a few years before my current peak physical condition gives way to a slow, gradual curve of decline. But looking back over the last few years, my specs have stayed exceptionally consistent. I've never been negligent in keeping myself ready for emergencies of any kind. My master really beat that lesson into me, I guess. Running comes so naturally to me now that it's very easy to detach my mind from the movements of my body. Often find myself thinking over all sorts of things. That means you're not training hard enough, Yuji. Trust me, if you're training hard enough, you're not gonna be able to detach your mind to your body. My master was a great believer in staying on your toes, preparing for the extraordinary in the most ordinary of times. Always think ahead, always stay prepared, always follow your routine. In the course of my monotonous daily training, there were times when everything seemed so calm that I couldn't help doubting the importance of all that. But I've been plunged abruptly into crisis often enough to recognize that peace-saddled complacency for what it is. Even just over the last year, this sort of readiness proved immeasurably important. Still, I'd really like things to stay relatively peaceful for a while. Trying to drive a subtle shadow of unease from my mind, I focus on carrying out my comfortingly familiar peacetime training. The late summer sun creeps up into the sky, gradually warming the earth below. It's been 2 months since we returned to this place, and in reality, nothing too dramatic has happened in that time. Even compared to the peaceful time I spent here before, nothing's really... Well, no. I suppose there have been a few minor changes to the previous routine. I'm back. For one thing, I started consistently saying this phrase immediately after returning to the dorm. There were occasions when I said those words before, but it was a pretty uncommon event, reserved for when somebody happened to be in the lobby when I opened the door.
おかえりなさい、ユージ。
But now, I've got a reason to announce my return every single time. Namely, there's always a certain someone here to say those words to. Sorry about slipping out. I was a little worried you might not be getting enough sleep, waking up at the same hour as me.
あなたと一緒に寝起きしているんだから、そうでもないわよ。はい、タオル。
Thanks. Taking the towel from Yumiko, I roughly scrubbed the sweat off my face. Whew. And when I look up again, an attractive young woman standing very close to me with a distinctly wistful expression on her face. Slightly exasperated, I heave a quiet sigh. Look, Yumiko, I think we've been over this before.
いや、わかってるから。
Waving her hands in the air, she interrupts my earnest warning in a flustered tone of voice.
ここは公共の場だからそういうのは部屋に戻ってからにしないかってそうよね
What, does she want like a kiss or something? That's right. Glad to see you got the message after all.
だからその軽く抱きしめるだけで今は我慢するから
Look, woman. Is this seriously the same person who used to swing a box cutter at me every time we met? Turning her blushing face slightly away, she flutters brief glances in my direction. Don't think I'll say this to the girl herself, but it's not far from the sort of come-hither look you'd get from pros in a red-light district. I mean, yes, I do understand this is the product of sincere affection, but seriously, when the girl's this blatant about it, it's hard not to get suspicious. Something Makina told me once comes to mind. To wit, women of the Kudere tribe are a pain in the ass. They're not used to showing affection, so once they do go sweet, they'll give everyone in a 3-mile radius cavities. That said, giving her the cold shoulder would just be making more trouble for myself in the long run. Just yesterday, I tried brushing off Yumiko's excessive demands for public displays of affection. She retaliated with hours of sulky, reproachful glaring. Still falls well into the cute category, but the effort involved in smoothing her feathers after the fact only amplifies the pain in the ass factor. And so, I decided to give in to her demands like the hopeless sap I am. At least you know that you're a hopeless sap. Fine. Here we go. Pulling Yumiko over to me, I embrace her lightly at arm's length. I didn't wipe myself down a little with a towel, but I'm still just back from exercising. Can't exactly go for the bear hug.
ユージ
Can you not, like, moan in my ears? And as if to say, the hell with your thoughtfulness, the woman dives forward and nuzzles her pretty face against my chest. Already in heat first thing in the damn morning. I think you're aware, but I kinda stink right now. Don't cling to me like that.
いいのいいなユージの匂い男って感じがすごくする
I think it's just sweat, Yumiko. If your past self could see you now, she'd probably break down in tears.
そうかしらむしろ昔の私は幸せすぎて泣くんじゃないかしら動いちゃダメじっとしてて
Honestly. Hey, Yumiko.
なに
Charming as it is to watch you get drunk off my body, I think it's time for you to back off now.
何よもうちょっと堪能させなさいよいつ触っても飽きないなこの熱い胸板これが毎日私を押しつぶして
Well, I don't personally mind if you want to continue grunting in satisfaction while fondling my pecs, but I'd recommend taking a look behind you first.
いいなユージの匂い
Thanks, Samani. I think she needed a slap to the face like that.
いやー人間長く生きてみるものねこんな光景を毎日見ることになるなんて少しも想像できなかったわよ人間の無限の可能性を感じるのはみちる様だけではなかったのですねこの小峰幸毎日が発見の連続です
Makina trots energetically up to Yumiko, currently frozen solid. The intensity of her grin is genuinely unpleasant.
お兄ちゃんの裸を思い出して燃え上がっちゃったんだよなでも朝からこういうことしてると夜の生活バレバレだからやめとけ
Thanks, Makina. Thumping Yumiko's shoulders in a companionable way, she barrages her with merciless words. The young woman in question, her hands still frozen pitifully in the air where my chest had been, looks around the lobby like a high school drama student doing their best imitation of a robot.
ああ朝から脂っこいの見ちゃったせいで胸焼けしたわ戻ろう戻ろう
そうですね榊さんどうもごちそうさまでした由美子最低限の人間の尊厳は保つようにしなさいよねこのままいけばロビーセックスも十分にあり得るのよさ
No, I think we're good, Makina. At least not in this game. I think she only has 3 sex scenes. One by one, the others give the statue-stiff Yumiko a friendly slap on the shoulders, then saunter off mocking her. There's some real affection underneath those wry smiles, but also undeniably a good deal of exasperation mixed in as well. Hey Yumiko, you alright? I'm going to take that as a no. Yumiko, stunned speechless, lets out an anguished grunting moan of the sort I usually expect from Michiru. We've actually had more than a few incidents like this over the last 2 months, but today was exceptionally bad. Well, I try to warn her. Maybe that will be a bit of a lesson to the girl. Can only pray she'll finally cut down on the public dare somewhat. To Yumiko, I'm going back to my room now, alright? Shaking my head with a smile, I head back to my room. By manipulating the Minister of Land, Transport, and Infrastructure, we succeeded in removing Sakaki Michiaki from his role at the top of the East Beach Group, putting an end to his pursuit of Yumiko. The director we successfully raised up as an opposing power, essentially a puppet of the government, has already discontinued Michiaki's aggressive strategy of expansion in favor of a much more stable and low-risk style of management. The East Beach Group has shed its image as the Sakaki family's personal empire. With surprising speed, it's being reformed into a very different kind of enterprise. Someday, people probably won't even remember that they were once mocked as bandits. As for Mahama Academy, it's going to be closing its doors. There were potential PR issues because of its connection to Michiaki's struggle with his daughter, and on a purely practical level, the new management took issue with the lavish, inefficient spending that defined Mahama's administration. They did explore restoring it as a more conventional school, but given the location and circumstances, it was estimated that attracting a sufficiently large student body would prove difficult. In the end, the project was simply abandoned. Then again, from beginning to end, the school never had more than 6 students. Putting aside the facilities and funding, once that framework changed, Mahama would still have stopped being what it was. In exchange for the academy's closure, the dormitory was allowed to remain open in a different form. Without a school attached, it's become a simple apartment building. They entrusted the management to the former students for the time being, enabling us to continue our lives virtually the same as before. Everyone's using this place as a launchpad for the next stage of their lives. Amane will apparently be leaving to help out at her family's traditional restaurant with Makina once their preparations are in order. Sachi and Michiru are going to be transferring together to a boarding school the principal recommended. However, even if we all end up leaving this place behind, we've made plans to periodically meet up again. The 6 of us may have been born in different places, but in a way, we all feel as if we grew up here. Although we've regained our familiar daily life, little by little things are starting to change. And Yumiko is certainly no exception. After dramatically transforming her world, she's trying to adapt herself to a whole new routine. Thanks for helping with breakfast.
はい、どうぞ。
Eating my meals around this table with Yumiko already feels completely natural. Today, we've got grilled salmon and boiled greens in soy sauce that I made, and soup and rice courtesy of Yumiko. That sounds pretty appetizing right now. It is actually 11 o'clock, 11:27, and I've been recording for almost 5 hours. I was going to stop after 2 hours and like eat and take a shower, but I'm like, damn, I can't stop. I feel like this is the most natural way for me to actually like record videos nowadays. I just love reading visual novels. And I don't really like, you know, read once every day, but I do read in like crazy bursts of time every so often. Yeah, looks like you've gotten the hang of miso soup now.
本当？
Why would I lie now? It really is good.
よかった。嬉しい。
Her eyes full of relief, Yumiko favors me with a sincere smile. Since we started living together in my room, the girls gradually ease her way into cooking. At first, she was burning pans more often than cooking food, but under the strict tutelage of Madame Suo Amane, she's finally learned how to make miso and other simple soups. You're learning boiled food next, right? Amane was pretty enthusiastic. Sounds like she enjoys teaching you.
あまねの指導ってちょっと怖いのよね。何か対があるような気がしてならないの？
Well, the two of them have finally gotten friendly enough to use each other's first names, so I guess that lingering tinge of jealousy isn't anything to be that worried about. Amane is probably just playing around for the most part, but since I'm clearly part of the issue, I can't exactly stick my head in either way. Seeing a change of subject, I reach out for my rice bowl. Looks like you got the rice just right too. When I look across the table again to praise Yumiko, I find her chopsticks pause hesitantly in mid-air. What's wrong? You're not eating. I call out to her again. She starts a little, then smiles.
ちょっとね。
Morning light flows in softly through the window. The faint touch of sun on her skin makes Yumiko's smile seem almost eerily gentle.
なんだか今でも信じられない。こうしてみんなと楽しく生活してユージとも一緒に暮らせるなんて昔だったら絶対にありえなかっ
Before, Yumiko was always alone. The girl absolutely didn't choose that solitude. She always longed to have someone at her side, and many times she tried to convince herself there would be. Those hopes were betrayed again and again. Yumiko plunged into despair, gave up on connecting with others, and hid herself from the world. But after she came to this dorm, her walls slowly began to crumble.
小さい頃あんなに人が怖くてもう関わることなんてやめようって思ってたのに
Yumiko warmed up to our classmates. She fell in love with me, and her solitude finally came to an end. Considering the way she used to be, it's not surprising she'd find all this a little hard to believe. Damn you, mosquitoes!
ありがとうユージ
No wonder my calves were actually itchy. Yeah, I'm happy for you, Yumiko. That smile's coming from the heart. Yumiko looks genuinely content, like someone who's gotten everything they ever wanted. But when the girl talks about how happy she is, sometimes I see a very slight shadow fall across her face. And although it's just speculation on my part, I think I know why. Through our trap, Sakaki Michiaki lost everything he had built in a single day. Tripped up by the willful daughter he wanted to manipulate like a puppet, the man vanished in defeat. The supremely arrogant emperor who stepped out of the car that day left a crushed and broken man. Those deeply contrasting images are still crystal clear in my memory. And for Yumiko, his daughter, that moment must have left a far stronger impression. There wasn't just hatred in her eyes as she quietly watched her father disappear. I'm sure many complex emotions were running through her mind. Following that incident, Sakaki Michiaki essentially abandoned both his personal and professional life. The mass media he'd previously muzzled through force briefly latched on to the dramatic overthrown tyrant storyline, but in time, their interest died out. By now, the man's already becoming part of the past. Michiaki still got a nearly 10% stake in the group, along with a new honorary position, so he shouldn't exactly be starving. Still, he's been lying low to the point that it's almost unsettling. Sometimes, I can't help wondering if he's lurking in the shadows somewhere, steadily plotting revenge and working toward a comeback. But that hypothesis doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. I couldn't see any hint of spirit in the hollowed-out shell of a man who climbed back into his car that day. And judging from the way she watched him go, Yumiko probably sensed something similar. Her father had been the focus of all her hatred for years. He was the ruthless creature who chained her down. But underneath his armor, he was just one incredibly frail human being, every bit as weak as Yumiko herself once was. Watching her father stripped naked and chased from his place in the world, the girl no doubt felt a painful twinge of recognition and empathy. To survive, to carve out her own place in the world, there was no choice but to overthrow him. But that doesn't mean it left an entirely pleasant taste in her mouth. Yumiko? Man, I feel like Yumiko is just... she's too... I don't know. Good? Gullible? I don't know. If I were in her shoes, I probably wouldn't care. Like after what happened or how he treated me? No thanks. Again, there's that slight hint of listlessness in her expression. Even when Yumiko is acting cheerful, I can't help picking out these slight signs of fraying at the seams. You keep stopping your chopsticks.
大丈夫なんでもないわ
I've been refraining from asking Yumiko about this. She obviously hasn't even begun to sort out her own feelings yet. It'd just be cruel to make her dwell on it even further. Alright, I know what you're thinking about.
何
Moving smoothly around the table, I push her down to the floor. We got interrupted halfway through, didn't we? Maybe you wanted something like this.
そんなそうでもあるけど
So I cover it up with a white lie. And Yumiko, for her part, accepts that lie.
ダメよ急にそんな まだこんなに明るいのに。
Her words are hesitant, but her fingers twine through mine. As if to request the next step, her entire palm squirms coquettishly in my grasp. Your hands seem to have a different opinion. I'm not sure who to believe.
もう意地悪言わないで。
Seems she wasn't really rejecting me. I leaned down and pressed my lips against hers. Pretending not to notice the wounds on each other's backs, we run our hands across the undamaged surface alone, seeking comfort. I know we'll have to treat those wounds eventually. But right now, we need time. We need this. Yumiko hasn't had real peace for practically her entire life. At the very least, I want to give her a chance to think. Suddenly, shrill electronic music fills the air. We stop and smile wryly at each other.
ごめんね。ちょっと待って。
With one more brief peck on my lips, Yumiko pulls herself out from under me. She flips open her bleeding cell phone and glances at the screen.
弁護士さんだわ。
After letting me know that, she picks herself up off the floor and presses the answer button.
はい、もしもし。はい、先日はありがとうございました。
Yumiko recently hired a lawyer to sort through the legal issues involved with our situation. He's also helping make arrangements for managing the Sakaki family's property now that Michiaki's all but fallen off the face of the earth. The family affairs are understandably chaotic at the moment, so it's a lot for Yumiko to handle on her own. Still, she's been diligently negotiating, selling off what needs to be sold, and trying to keep things from falling apart. I assume this phone call is another update on their progress. But the peaceful conversation I was expecting changes dramatically with a small cry of surprise from Yumiko. It's not just the tone of her voice. The calm look on her face gives way to a grim and severe expression. More than a little concerned, I pick myself up off the ground and watch.
はい。はい、わかりました。では明日いらした時に詳しく。はい。
After hanging up the phone, Yumiko gazes down at the screen in disbelief, not speaking a word. Did something happen? This time, I find myself unable to bite my tongue. Yumiko, her face still blank with shock, finally turns to face me.
あの人が。
That man. There's nothing in the phrase to suggest Yumiko is talking about a relative, but there's only one person she refers to that way.
あの人が私に全て譲渡したそうよ。
Everything. Confusion in her eyes, Yumiko nods shortly.
あの人の持っていた全ての株式を私に譲渡し
Oh,
た。
sorry. Sakaki Michiaki did. Yumiko doesn't respond. She just gazes intently down at her phone, complex emotions flitting across her face, almost as if the man in question was standing in front of her. It's the same expression that was on her face 2 months ago as she watched her father disappear. An expression of loneliness, anger, and profound sorrow. That's another 3-year time skip, actually. The muted murmur of a television echoes through the spacious room. There's no other sound to be heard. Half submerged in a plush sofa, I abruptly open my eyes at the sound of a voice on the television. It's a very familiar voice, one I've been hearing on a daily basis for a long time now. Ah, must have nodded off halfway through. I move my eyes back to the enormous LCD screen mounted on the wall. Yumiko, wearing a tailored professional suit and a resolute expression, listens carefully to her interviewer's question and offers a precise response. That was a pretty nostalgic dream just now. Maybe it's because I spoke with Amane on the phone the other day, but I dreamt of our time at Mahama Academy. I find my mind running back over the events that turned Yumiko into the public figure she is today. When Sakaki Michiaki transferred all of his stock in the East Beach group to her, Yumiko thought long and hard about what to do with it all. She even considered selling the entire stake and donating the proceeds to charity. It was, in some sense, tainted money. And more importantly, slightly less than 10% of that company still amounted to an astronomical sum of money. Yumiko wanted to live a peaceful life on her own terms, and she knew that kind of money would change everything. But after much agonizing, she ultimately decided to accept it. And then, while using her newfound wealth to attend a top-flight university, she started up her own company, one that's proven wildly successful. Right now, it's becoming increasingly frequent for her to appear in the media as an exemplary young entrepreneur. Damn you, mosquitoes! Sorry. As to why Yumiko voluntarily entered the same corporate world that tied her down for so long, I've never asked her point blank. But I do have the feeling it's got something to do with the open wound she's been ignoring for the last 3 years. Probably the same reason she didn't sell off this house, despite all the bad memories it must hold for her. We're living here together now. I guess there comes a point when avoidance doesn't make your scars ache any less. My other cell phone begins to ring for the first time in 3 years. After carefully confirming the name on the caller ID screen, I hit the answer button. Hey, been a while. There's a moment of silence, but in that time, many unspoken words passed between us. Although I was officially reprimanded after the incident 3 years ago, a certain influential force in Ichigaya's upper echelon shielded me from more serious charges and arranged for my reinstatement on the reserve. That said, I was no longer interested in returning to my previous workplace, as supporting Yumiko had become my first and foremost priority. I took my chance to formally resign. Naturally, this led to an estrangement from JB. There was one and only one thing I'd ask of her at the end. It was a job better suited to a detective agency than a professional of her caliber, but I asked anyway, fully aware of my selfishness. JB accepted that strange request without particular comment. I didn't ask why, but it felt as though she wanted to tie up that same loose end herself. I already knew the reason she was making this phone call. This has to mean she's found some sort of answer to that odd request I made of her. There's no longer any other reason for JB to contact me. I see. Thank you, Julia. It's alright. I still want to know. Probably Sakaki Michiaki's past. I mechanically jot down JB's indifferent words in a notepad that was lying nearby. As the trees outside sway in the wind, a muted sound of rustling foliage carries through the otherwise silent room. After ending the call with JB, I tuck the black cell phone away and take out the one I normally use. The call history is filled almost entirely with a single number. Clicking on it, I bring the phone to my ear. Yumiko and I walk leisurely down the road leading to the station. She's got a lot on her plate at work right now, but the moment I called, she managed to open her schedule. Yeah, there's something I wanted to talk about. Sorry about dragging you out. Yumiko smiles happily. I haven't told her the real reason for this outing yet. That was a deliberate decision. I didn't want it to be weighing on her mind from the very start. It's a slightly far off place actually. True, now that you mention it. Yumiko glances over at me with a puzzled expression. This vague, riddle-like conversation continues as we climb the stairs to our local train station. Changing trains after a few stops, we make our way out of central Tokyo and head for the south part of the Kanto region. Colorful port cities flash by outside the windows. Eventually, these give way to peaceful-looking little valley towns. As vivid sheets of green start to dominate the scenery, Yumiko grows progressively quieter. The train's heading straight for that place. We wouldn't be going there without a good reason. Yumiko's no doubt starting to realize this won't be the lighthearted outing she'd expected. Our destination lies in the town where Yumiko spent the loneliest years of her childhood. By the time we're standing there before the building itself, her expressions painfully tense.
ユージ、どういうことなの？
It's a large general hospital at the outskirts of a sleepy country town. A hospital the two of us visited several times together. But there should no longer be any reason for us to come here.
もうお母さんもいないのに。
Yumiko's mother, Sakaki Misako, quietly passed away 2 years ago. After the usual formalities with her relatives, Yumiko told me she'd never be setting foot in this town again. There were too many sad memories in this place. Just being here was painful for her. I know it's hard coming back here, but there's something we can't talk about anywhere else.
ここでないとできない話？
Yeah. We proceed slowly through the familiar hallways. After climbing the stairs, we make our way toward a private room in the very back, then come to a halt in front of the door. There's a certain person who's been visiting this place virtually every week since your mother's death.
ここへ？
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, right? Yumiko casts her eyes down, pursing her lips slightly. Looks as though a name's come to mind. I don't know why any more than you do, but it's a fact. That person's been coming here for years, and begging the hospital staff not to breathe a word of those visits to anyone.
私たちに知られたくないから。
I silently nod. I know it'd be tough for you to meet him face to face all of a sudden, Yumiko. I'm planning to go in there and ask why he's doing this. Do you think you could wait outside and listen? We can head back home now, if that's what you want. I'll promise you never to bring that person up again. But if there's still a bad taste lingering in your mouth, instead of trying to forget the past, how about we look for a way to accept it? Her eyes still turned down toward the floor. Yumiko mutters quietly.
ユージはもうずっと前に気づいていたのね。私があのことをまだ引きずっていることに。
Yeah. Sorry for not saying anything until now.
うんうん。いいの。
There must be countless memories running through Yumiko's head right now. Her empty childhood, the faint hope she found, only to have it snatched away. The man who took everything away. Her crushing solitude. The artificial cage where her heart slowly began to thaw. Her first act of real resistance. Our escape. At the end of a long struggle, a confrontation with everything on the line. And the former usurper who had everything taken away from him. What does his daughter feel for him now? Hatred? Something else entirely. I can practically see the tangled ball of conflicted emotions wriggling inside her mind. Eventually, Yumiko raises her head. Her expression's firm and determined.
私、聞くわ。ここで待ってる。
I see. Alright then. Nodding to Yumiko, I step forward and slowly open the door to the hospital room. With the heavy sound of wood sliding across the floor, sunshine from the far window floods out into the hallway. I'm coming in. It's a hospital room with no occupant, dominated by an empty bed. The strong smell of the sun-faded old curtains overpowers the lingering scent of disinfectant still lingering in the air. At the side of the bed, a single man sitting in a folding chair, hands folded in front of him.
予定通りだな。さすがは軍人だけあって時間に正確だ。
Well, I'm not in that line of work anymore. The time passes quickly. Best to use it efficiently, wouldn't you say?
その通りだ。時間はすぐに過ぎる。
Sakaki Michiaki smiles stiffly as the words leave his mouth. His face, carved with wrinkles, looks like that of a much older man.
3年ぶりか。もっとも、君の顔など、あまり覚えてはいないがね。
I remember yours very clearly. Seems to have changed pretty dramatically.
生きがいのなくなった人間など、所詮はこのようなものだ。血と肉の入れ物はあっても、それを動かす意志が空っぽでは、ただ 細々と物を食い、排泄するだけのゴミでしかない。
True enough. His eyes, once gleaming with ravenous ambition, are dull and sunken. His mouth droops slackly. It's as if his face can no longer support its own weight. There's not even a hint of the power and intensity that once defined this man. The last 3 years must have been a period of increasingly rapid decline. Sorrow seems to ooze from every pore of his body.
そんな私をここに呼んで何をしようというんだね。
Michiaki's voice, full of self-ridicule, implies a question. Here to laugh at a fallen man? I wanted to ask you something. What was driving you 3 years ago? No. What drove you for your entire adult life? Where did that ambition and greed come from? I couldn't help feeling you were lost somehow, that you might even have regretted the path you took. And that's why I've dragged you out here, so I can stick my nose into your business. Michiaki responds to this with a snort of amusement.
こんな非道な男にそんなことを聞いても無駄だろう。君の期待するような言葉など私が言うことはない。私から全てを奪った贖罪のつもりでそんな自己弁護を考えたのかもしれんが、シナリオとしては三流だな。出直してくるがいい。
Tell me then, why have you been retracing the footsteps of your wife and child?
どうしてそれを？
I had my superior do a little digging. You've been sighted in the vicinity of this hospital, the apartments Yumiko and I rented while we were on the run, and even your wife's family home. Oh, I guess, just tracking down where he is, instead of his past. My final request of JB was an investigation into Sakaki Michiaki's current whereabouts and activities since his fall from power. Michiaki spent the last few years visiting every place his wife and daughter once lived, as if to vicariously experience their journey, and he did his best to keep us in the dark about it, even disguising himself and using false names. Only a person who regrets their past would do something like that. If you'd really thrown everything aside, you wouldn't go out of your way to visit places with a connection to your family. That's why I finally decided to ask, was that life really what you wanted? Or were you just chained to it by something beyond your control? I had a feeling knowing the answer might be better than letting it all fade away miserably into the past. Michiaki heaves a heavy sigh. His sunken eyes gaze at the floor for a long moment before slowly turning up to me. There's a surprisingly gentle smile on his face. It's the resigned expression of a beaten man.
君の上司は最後まで私の気に入らないことをするのだな。
Blame me for this one. I'm the one who asked her.
妙なことをするものだ。おせっかいにも程があるぞ。
Michiaki, who had been leaning forward in his chair like a stooped old man, abruptly reclines as if to stretch his back. His face pointed at the ceiling. He lets out a very long sigh.
私が父から最初に帝王学を教わったのは何歳の時かわかるかね？
I don't know, 3 years old? 4 years old? No?
9歳だよ。遊びたい盛りの子供にあの人はいきなり社会と金の話をしてきたんだ。
Not old enough. I mean, not young enough. 9 years old isn't even that bad. That's like, what, 4th grade? I've already learned about money when I was like 2. Well, not really learned by being lectured though. I was just a very observant kid when I was younger. Throughout Michiaki's childhood, there was a constantly rotating cast of women at his father Kojiro's side. The women came and went one after the other, each calling herself his mother, offering him various forms of distorted love. Some were affectionate to him in a shallow way of a child playing with a favorite toy. Others were openly hostile, even abusive. But however they treated him, his father showed no interest whatsoever. On the other hand, Sakaki Kojiro was abnormally intrusive when it came to his son's studies and friendships. Perhaps it was because he had once failed the Tokyo Imperial University examination himself, but he demanded superlative academic results from Michiaki, insisting he would tolerate nothing less than admission to a renowned national university. Any friends his son made at school were thoroughly investigated by detective agencies. When Michiaki failed to produce superb results, or showed the slightest signs of disobedience, his father would respond with violence.
家が怖かった。学校から戻ることが苦痛で仕方なかった。
Desperate to escape his terror, Michiaki threw himself into his studies, ultimately passing the entrance exam for the nation's most prestigious university. This success extended to his personal life, as he obediently acquainted himself with the gaudiest tiers of high society. The more Michiaki met his expectations, the more his father came to demand from him.
大学に入った頃だったか。あの人は私に言ったのだよ。
Michiaki's voice trembles slightly, as if afraid even to revisit the memory of his father. It takes some time before the next words emerge from his mouth.
お前の自我などいらない。俺の人形になって、俺の死後も働けとね。
I mean, at that point, couldn't you just, slap your dad or something? You're in college, dude. But I guess some people just don't have the courage to do it when their object of fear is right in front of their face. University didn't bring the freedom Michiaki had hoped for. Every step he took was decided by his father. Under constant observation, he lived as nothing more than an extension of another man's will.
そして、私の自我の一切がついえ、完全な人形となるのを見計らったかのように、あの人は亡くなったんだ。
Michiaki turns his eyes towards the window.
それからのことは、君も何かで聞いているだろう。後に残されたのは、完全なあの人のコピーというわけだ。あの人と同じことをしていれば、波動を進めると思っていた。だから、ユミコの行動が何一つとして理解できなかった。
That's why you followed in her footsteps after losing everything? With yet another bitter smile, Michiaki slowly nods.
そんなことをしてどうなるわけでもないんだがな。ただ、何かあるのかもしれないと、すがるようにして同じ道をたどろうとした。
Did you find anything? He shakes his head.
何もなかったよ。話をしようにも、妻も娘ももうどこにもいなかった。ただ、何より恐ろしかったのは、そんな状況にあってさえ、悲しいとすら思えなかったことだ。わかるかね？幼い頃から他人はクズだゴミだと教え込まれ、女は道具だと言われ続けてきた人間が、今更になって家族の愛だの情だの理解できるわけがないのだよ。
Once again, Michiaki's gaze turns toward the ceiling. He's not shedding tears, but he's wearing the expression of a crying man. The expression of a man painstakingly forcing his face to take on the contours of sorrow.
私は悔いることすらできないんだ。
When you've known right, it's easy enough to see wrong for what it is. But when all you've known is violence and cruelty and misery, they're simply facts of your existence. By looking at the situation outside, you can understand that you've fallen to the very bottom. And yet, the grief and remorse just won't come. There's no emptier feeling. Sakaki Michiaki is mired in the depths of an extraordinary despair. No matter how he moves, no matter what he says, the smothering darkness all around doesn't so much as stir. He's sunk into an inescapable hell. It's the polar opposite of his daughter's suffering. Where Yumiko felt pain, this man knows only crushing numbness. Might be hard to swallow coming from a brat like me, but I can sort of understand your feelings.
なんだと
There was a time when I couldn't even grieve for the things I lost. I tell Sakaki Michiaki just a little about my own past, about my misery, and my one small glimmer of hope, about the emptiness I felt when even that was snatched away from me, about the despair I endured again and again, until my heart grew numb, till I couldn't even recognize it as despair. Wouldn't say I've completely recovered even now, but little by little, I start to experience those feelings again. Do you know why?
さあ、私にはわからない。
It's because of Yumiko. Having her in my life helped me regain something like normal human emotions. By protecting another human being, by sharing my life with them, I gained something in return. The impenetrable darkness inside of me was punctured with a few small rays of light. But if I hadn't met Yumiko, there's no doubt I'd still be wallowing in the same despair as this man. I need to be my own way. I need to be on my way, there we go. But tell me something first. What are you planning to do from now on?
これから何も考えてはいない。私には何もないからな。
Alright, in that case, I'm going to make a request of you. Do whatever you want with the time you've got left, but don't give up on living.
どうしてそんなことを望むんだ？
Because it would make Yumiko sad, you fool. Staring straight into Michiaki's eyes, I continue in a forceful tone of voice. Don't take anything else away from Yumiko. Whatever you think of yourself, she still sees you as her father. Goodbye. His final words seem to have a lasting effect on Michiaki. I've already turned my back and taken a few steps when I hear him rising to his feet.
ユミコ、
When I turn around, Michiaki's looking at me with the expression of a man who's just reached a firm conclusion.
ユミコ、幸せに。私のようにはしないでやってくれ。人間として幸せにしてやってくれ。最後の、私の最後の頼みだ。頼む。
This isn't the hollow husk of a man I was speaking to a moment ago. It's not the broken puppet who told me he was nothing. At the end, Sakaki Michiaki stands before me as a father. Don't think I can accept that request.
なぜだ？
Because someday, you'll have to help make Yumiko happy as well. But when I speak those words, the light fades from his eyes.
ユミコがそれを望むはずがないだろう。今ここにあの子の母も、そして父もいないのも、すべてはこのくだらない人形のせいなのに。
And Yumiko is a woman who can grieve for a puppet. Weren't you listening? She dragged me up out of the same muck you're sinking in.
本当か？
Yes, I wouldn't even be standing in this room otherwise. Yumiko's lingering unhappiness wasn't a product of bitterness, much less a desire for revenge. It was something else entirely. And that's why I came here, to show them a path toward accepting the past. That's not going to be your final request. I'll come see you again. Make sure you stick around until then. Turning around once more, I head for the door. This time, there's no call from behind. Yumiko? Yumiko is not standing in the hallway where I left her. But it doesn't take long for me to realize where she's gone. The weather is nice today. She has to be there. A powerful wind gusts across the rooftop. Sandwiched between the vivid blue sky and dull gray concrete, a small white thing flutters in the breeze. A slender milepost, marking the spot where it all began and the spot where it's going to end. Milpose? Malpose? I actually don't know that word. Her white skirt and long black hair dance in the air as I slowly approach. Wrapping my arms around that slim body from behind, I embrace it tightly. Yumiko must have realized I was approaching. Without flinching or turning around, she reaches up to grasp at my hand. Shoulders trembling softly, she lets her tears spill freely down onto my arm.
ありがとう。ここに連れてきてくれてありがとう。本当に。
Affectionately stroking my hand, Yumiko thanks me again and again. The wind gusts strongly past us, but we accept it head on, steady as a deeply rooted tree.
ユウシにお願いがあるの。聞いてくれるかしら。
Yeah, shoot.
私、父に教えてあげたい。ユウシに教えてもらったように、父がそこにちゃんといるんだってことを教えてあげたい。
Sorry. She chokes up repeatedly as the words leave her mouth, and yet, her voice seems strong and firm. It's going to take a while, you know? Sakaki Michiaki has many, many empty years behind him. Filling that massive void won't be a small project, or an easy one.
平気よ。だって、私は一人じゃないもの。
Her hand squeezes fiercely down on mine.
だから、大丈夫。
I nod and squeeze back. The words I spoke to Michiaki were my honest feelings. It's only because of Yumiko that I'm here today. I owe her everything. Alright, let's teach him together. With that, Yumiko falls silent once more. Grasping my hand, she gazes up into the sky and lets the wind break against her body. Beautiful summer clouds drift by far overhead. The sky Yumiko watched before was always a lonely place. The vault of blue was a symbol of nothingness, a reflection of the emptiness below. But right now, I think she's seeing something very different up there.
入りなさい。
はい、失礼します。
例の件の報告？
はい、そうです。
いいわよ。報告してちょうだい。
東浜電鉄に絡む敵対勢力の排除ですが、筆頭であった門間陸将補の急逝により、その勢力は次第に弱まっています。一部の組織暴力が旧来の組織と手を組んで資金集めをしているという情報もありますが、取るに足らないものかと思われます。
榊道明のその後は？
精神的にかなりの疲弊が見られましたが、現在は娘の榊由美子の支援により回復傾向にあるとのことです。以前のような暴挙には至らないと見て間違いないでしょう。
彼も国益を損ねるようなところまで手を広げずに、抱えきれる程度にしておけばよかったのよ。目をつけられちゃいけないところにバレた以上、見過ごすわけにはいかなかったわ。
外事経由の情報では、陸将補が内通していたとされる外国人の女も処理されたそうです。
門間陸将補もバカなことをしたわね。そのままおとなしくしておけば議員にだってなれたのに、年がいもなくやってきた春に浮かれて欲をかいたせいで病死することになったわけだから。
門間陸将補の後継ですが、内田一佐の昇格が決まりました。
あの人畜無害のおじさんなら無難に務めるでしょう。適当な中間のポジションには首振ってハンコつくだけの人間がいればそれでいいわ。それにこの職場に関して言えば、野心など一切ない方がいい。
すべては上層部の思惑通りというわけですか。
そうね。何もかもが最初から最後まで手のひらの上だった。 実際に榊道明に対峙した彼らも私たちもね。
9029残念ですね。結局ここもやめちゃいましたし。
まあ仕方ないわよ。もう子供も生まれたわけだし、そうそう無茶もできなくなる潮時だったのよ。何よ、私の顔をじっと見て。
寂しそうですね、先輩。
余計な詮索をしないでちょうだい。キアラ、コーヒー入れて。
はい、わかりました。以上で報告を終わります。
さようなら、ユージ。
Damn, this is another 5-year time skip. Pulled along by a small hand, I walk down a gently curving road at the side of a familiar river. I have to bend over a little to match the height of my companion. Moving at an awkward trot, I do my best to keep up.
パパ遅いよ。もっと早く。
Maybe you could slow down instead, Yuma.
早くしないとお日様なくなっちゃうよ。
My entreaty, delivered with a lopsided half smile, is shot down instantly. As Yuma hauls me forward with renewed vigor, I hear a quiet giggle from behind us. Look, Yumiko, can you stop laughing and say something to the kid? Ignoring this request entirely, Yumiko smiles over at us. One of her hands is occupied with a picnic basket, the other with a bag full of painting materials. She watches her husband and only daughter run noisily along with an expression of profound contentment on her face. Yuma's the name of a girl? I thought that was a guy.
着いた。ほらパパ座って。ママはここ。
I actually thought this voice was also a guy. With practiced movements, Yuma brushes away a little dirt, then guides us to our seats on the grass. The instant Yumiko settled herself onto the ground, Yuma slips in between her legs and onto her lap. Why don't you sit with me every once in a while, Yuma?
やだ。パパの膝の上硬いんだもん。
Kicking her stubby legs in the air, Yuma turns her face away in rejection. Yumiko, of course, just watches and laughs. Typical.
ママ、お絵かきしよう。お絵かき。
Looking back at her mother, Yuma makes her usual demand. Yumiko nods and retrieves a sketchbook from her bag. Coming here has become part of our normal routine. It's always the three of us, Yumiko, me, and our only child. Pretty much every weekend, we're here performing a happy family number sweet enough that it'd likely nauseate any unfortunate observers.
ほら、ちゃんと持ちなさい。こないだみたいに汚しちゃうわよ。
At least you're self-aware once again, Yuji. Yumiko reaches down and makes Yuma shift the marker in her hand to a more normal grip. Last week, the budding artist in question ended up defacing one of her favorite blouses as a result of that sloppy marker technique. With this energetic response, Yuma immediately switches back to her bizarre initial grip.
もう、言ったそばからね。
Smiling wryly, Yumiko takes our daughter's small hand in hers and shifts the marker again. Hard to believe it's the same hand that once came flying at my face in unthinkable rejection.
お父さんも、やっと退院ね。
Sounds like all the tests were good. I'm glad. Yumiko nods brightly. Just the other day, the doctor in charge of Michiaki's case granted approval for a discharge from the hospital. Yumiko's years of steady, determined effort have finally been rewarded.
おじいちゃん退院するの？
Yeah, good thing we had you around, Yuma.
どうして？
In response to this innocent question, I just shook her head. Yuma's cheerfulness provided more than enough warmth to thaw Michiaki's heart. These days, he's smiling like a good-natured old man every time his granddaughter walks into the room.
今度は、一緒に連れてきたいわね。
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Yuma, losing interest in the conversation, scribbles passionately away at her sketchbook. Gripping the marker firmly in her fist, she piles vaguely circular shapes onto each other seemingly at random. Looking up at me, she grins from ear to ear and points at the sketchbook.
Papa!
A mishmash of shapes that might barely qualify as something like a face stares up at me from the sheet of paper. Sorry, Yumiko. Seems Yuma might have taken after me instead of you on this front. Unable to find appropriate words of praise, I let out a fatherly sigh.
まだわからないわよ。これから上手くなるかもしれないのに。ね、ユマ？
これパパに似てるよ。
We got to do something about our sense of aesthetics at least. As I heave another long sigh, my wife and daughter cackle at me. And when her laughter dies down, Yumiko mumbles a few words to herself.
こんな日が来るなんて。本当によかった。
Stroking Yuma's head gently, she continues with 3 earnest words.
ありがとう、ユージ。
It's actually only 1 word, but okay, translation team. Once, there was only emptiness inside her. Yumiko rejected everything, avoided all communication, cut off the lines tying her to the world. Eventually, the passage of time softened her. Slowly, almost against her will, she began to form new connections. But at first, those bonds inspired only denial and guilt. Today, she's full to the brim with heartfelt gratitude. It flows out of her as naturally as she breathes. Every thank you is nothing less than proof that Yumiko's embraced this world with open arms, that she's actively chosen to live in it. That's my line. Thank you, Yumiko. After a long and painstaking search, we found happiness. Of course, it's a fragile thing with no constant form. We still have our struggles and our doubts. But it's not just the 2 of us anymore. There's something else for us to protect. Someone else to protect us both. The future we couldn't begin to imagine is slowly revealing its shape.
今度はママを描くね。
どんな顔になるのかな？
The warm, late spring wind blows gently by us. As the leaves rustle softly in the distance, Yuma's musical voice flies off toward the ocean. And in the sky we've drawn together, there's not a single speck of cloud. That's it for Yumiko's route. She definitely has the longest epilogue out of everyone, I feel. Amani's might be longer, but I could be wrong. But I feel like her epilogue is like basically after the end of the confrontation with the dad, right? And that was pretty long. Amani's was pretty fast in comparison, I think. Yumiko's route, like I said, is probably not as bad as I remember. And damn, this is a good song. I'm gonna be quiet now. Is the weird song gonna play again because of the localization team? I assume it will play. Yup. But alright. That is actually the Fruit of Grisaia. They actually gave you a bit of, you know, something to expect on the second game during the JB and Kiara scene. But I guess they didn't really want to end at a cliffhanger. But yeah, Make You will be after I do like I'll do a playthrough of something after this, which I'm not sure yet, but it's gonna be just a short game. I think most likely it's gonna be that sequel to Meteor World Actor, the Honey and Badger or whatever. I think it's only like 10 to 15 hours long, so I can finish that in like 7 episodes before jumping straight to Make You again. Because, you know, I kinda just want to play something else on the side. I'm actually playing something else called something Kanojo, I forgot. I think it came out like 2021, but it's in Japanese, so I probably won't be doing, what is it? A playthrough of it on YouTube. Probably just gonna do it on my own. So far, it seems pretty good. But yeah, I really did enjoy Grisaia throughout. As I remember, it is still as good as I remember. And heck, a lot of the storylines that I thought were not as good is still pretty damn good. It's still written pretty good. But yeah, I guess this is it. I hope you guys enjoyed the first installment of Grisaia, the Fruit of Grisaia. Make You, which is Labyrinth of Grisaia, is going to be maybe in about 2 or 3 months. Depends on how fast I finish, like I said, Meteor World Actor. Maybe not 3 months, maybe like just a month, to be honest. If I only take like 1 week, or not 1 week, but like 2 or 3 weeks to finish Meteor World Actor.
グリザイアの果実
But I hope you guys enjoyed this first installment of Grisaia. It is probably one of my favorite stories of all time. This is my favorite one, by the way. The Fruit of Grisaia is probably my favorite one. Labyrinth is pretty good. Rockwind is damn good as a finale, but I still feel like the main brunt of the game is this one. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. This will be a 2-episode part. It could probably be turned into 3 episodes, to be honest, but there's like 80 minutes worth of sex scenes that I have to cut out for you guys on YouTube, so probably just gonna be 2 episodes. But yeah, give it a like if you like it, sub if you haven't. Patreon will be getting those sex scenes, which are pretty good for Yumiko scenes. Damn good, I say. And also early access, of course. And I will see you guys in the next series, which is Meteor World Actor. See ya!